Dear friends, to your attention is our report about our research in the empirical method of evaluating the numerical values of metrics in the process of medical software quality determination. Our team has two parts. Um, is a combined efforts of National Technical University and Stefanik Pokarpatia National University of Ukraine, and that will give us very promising results because we cooperate with deep technical experience and aspects of the effects for some results in system implementation with aspects of human studies and grant researchers for this purpose. So, in the very introduction to um, our research field, we can say that information technologies nowadays is in the every aspects of our life, and especially medical software is importance of great importance is aspects of methods, technologies, and approaches. But in this field, we have a lot of complexity and expansion of application of modern software um, is accompanied by growing responsibility for its functions, requirements for software quality is in demand and increased dramatically in the last years. Especially in medical software, is quality is very important because it's about human health, maybe in human lives. Human lives in our times, we in the time of pandemic, we need to uh, expose more quality software to for the better curing of and supporting of all efforts fighting this disease and so on. According to the this complexity of programs and the number of defects and errors found in them, which are growing, we reflect is getting reflection in the software quality. So the challenge is to provide software quality, um, and in many cases we don't know the whole about remaining defects, the impact of which has to be minimized, and the further improvement of software maybe take its weight in some alternative solutions to get higher quality. So now we ready to formulate the problem. Is This problem is about estimation of numerical values of software quality based on the models. So for this purpose, we need some metrics that can be quantified numerically. It's can be resulted in several options for obtaining values to estimate estimated values is empirical ones, and many requirements is about validity, the diagnostic power, reliability, and effectiveness of such such outlined study. Um, so the empirical research we divide into main four parts is about observation, measurement, comparisons, and experiments. It's very close to medical features of research because any medical study about implementation of some cure methods or some pharmaceutical means. It's about observation, measurement, comparisons, and experiment. But to make is when all these parts is about human lives in the real real hospital. So empirical question which should be precisely defined, need to be defined in according to this data and this rule. Researcher has certain theories on the subject of which the research is conducted, the known facts. Based on these theories, certain assumptions or hypotheses are proposed. Finally, we can forecast specific events that follows on these assumptions. These predictions can be tested by approaching experiments, depending on the result of such experiment series, about assumptions, predictions will be finding confirmation or refutation, and whether maybe needs for further explanation, maybe more details and so on. When we plan to outline all the methods we use, is methods. A lot of is functions we developed, but mathematical grounding and all these grounds would allow programming using Porsche paradigm, and so we have a very detailed estimation that gives some vision for part of the problem, and finally, with the combine all this evaluation, we will have a result that is we aim for this research. Let's do it by step. First of all, we need to estimate functional completeness. That is first step is the way of metric for software equality, and here we estimate volume of realized requirements and the volume of general requirements. Second step is correctness, is the number of functions that failed or proved the final test, and the total number of completed tests. Aspects of behavioral is functional appropriateness. Consists of the amount of work performed or the options that will be available in the software compared to the total amount of expected functionality of the software. And in time stretch, we have time behavior that consists of real time of performed tasks at the time of the execution of the task in relation to the requirements. And in this way, we have some part of resource utilization, where we have number of all accessible resources that we can use to complete the task, compared to the number of resources requirements specified in the task. When we talking about resources, is a question about monetary aspects of implementation in the volume of it's about volume of using of such resource. The capacity and coexistence would be boil it down to the average of the actual parameter constraints and the average value of parameter constraints specified in the requirements. In our research, constrained variables is an essential part because it defines essential aspects of coexistence and interoperability for appreciates recognizability, a very recognizable element of a graphical interface will be uh, would be parted from the total number of elements of graphical interface and the value of functional parameters when working with shared data, the value of functional parameters under normal conditions. So it's a number of contexts we can operate and the question of coexistence is about sharing of parameters with relevant problems is the value of functional parameter of the um set grade of validation, set grade of validation for it. Any such software need to have enough grade of learnability, what amount of time we compare the time spent developing the system to compare it to the time of expected launching of the system operation, like in the medical software, is one of the main aspects. Operability and the question of operability is based on user error protection and evaluation of user interface aesthetics. So this evaluation um, is get in touch with user interface evaluation and the maximal value of evaluation, the number of errors. It's need to we have some number of protected protected functions, protected data, compared to the all number of the operability function at all. So we next stage would be matters for integrity and confidentiality, where the number of we estimate the number of failed successful login system to the number of the total logins for the system and integrity is the number of um, uh, unattended, unauthorized users to the, compared to the total number of attacks on the unauthorized system entries with will be in tight context with the question of fault tolerance and recoverability, where we have a number of successful launches compared to the total number of launches and the number on successful on failed restorations to the total number of restorations. That will be all this would bring us to the question of maturity and accessibility, where we can compare a user question of availability value to the maximum value expectation, and the number of requirements will be concerned closely to reliability, the number of all requirements set it for a reliability question. On the next stage, we talking about accountability, authenticity, and modularity of the system, where we will have the number of unauthorized actions written by authorized users and the number to common actions by authorized users, and the number of unidentified objects or resources per session and per time of all sub-sessions, the number of resources and objects used per session. Modularity is planned beforehand because system will be in total change, and the more data it processes, the more confidentiality we would have about these numbers of successful application and diagnostic routine and so on. So the modularity estimation and assessment includes a lot of parts. This is about functionality characteristic, performance characteristic, compatibility, reliability, usability, and security characteristic. And all these in the context of adding new module before the situation before and after adding such module would maybe change drastically, and all these need to be evaluated, and newest result to be estimated with respect to the altered situation we have before and after application of new module. As a final stage, we need to assess reusability and analyzability as a question of as a question. When we using installability, we need to evaluate the number of successful and successful installment to removal of software product, and the total number of software installs and removal, where the value of compatibility would be evaluated before and after changes with performance characteristic after such changes, and the value of performance we need to produce some number of failed evaluation criteria compared to the total number of criteria for evaluation, and use we use all these values for further calculation of metrics in the as a part of question for modularity and testability is results that can be compared to the final stage where we get when we expected the methods for to be analyzed, we get methods for replaceability is one of the crucial points of the projected system, because expected ability for replaceability, it would be the definitely one of the main point, because it's a characteristic of the replaced software product, the values of reliability on the replaced software product, the value of convenient chat receiver for the this replaced part, and the performance characteristic of the new reconfigured system after replaced some part is the value of security characteristic in the replaced software, the value of functional characteristic, the value of accordance to this number of expressed is numerically. Finally, the quality will be summarized is one one estimation where the value of performance is placed according to all inputted requirements, and the value of all characteristic used for expected reliability of it, and this allows us to get final quantitative assessment of software product quality, where we have numerically expressed this result, where is a lot of values inputted on the input is software is characteristic like before mentioning functionality, usability, reliability, performance, compatibility, security, maintainability, and portability. So it allows to get the final assessment. Um, and at the stage of discussion, we can propose practical study of empirical models of metrics for the quality of medical software, and it contains stage of registration, authorization, and all this put together would give the clinics online service where we have stages of it inform of all listed functionality of such service, and we have screens about online polyclinical home, where all this is about our city of one from Kiev, Ukraine, street long Dolga Street. Yes, and this is input in the registration form, and all this system will be put it together and processing all this data with confirmation about the laws for such operations. Very important restricted data. So finally, we can say that all this is the use of proposed empirical methods of evaluation of typical medical software quality system allows to estimate numerical values on the proposed characteristic mentioned before, and this allowed us to identify the problem in the areas of medical software use, and then to formulate possible consequences to obtain the overall quantitative assessment of it, focus on the possible gaps in teamwork, and researchers would be provided. Next stage of research would be about some intelligent solution with enough the intelligibility about formulate expert advices. Is new generation of medical system that would be like online medical service with expert module gives would give to clients some solutions, conclusions, and uh, outline ways to for overcoming of the some problems in the area of public health, healthcare, and home security at all. In this very complicated time of global pandemic and need to survive in our very, very complicated time. So that is all. We thank you all for attention. Our um, we can you can find us on the sites of researchers. There is a mails in the paper. So we'll be glad to answer the question and further discussions privately. So thank you overall.